Yesterday we talked about organisms and what constitutes an organism. And we decided that all living things are called organisms. Then we said that living things have similar traits that categorize them as organisms, and some of those things were that they all use energy, they are made of cells, they grow, they respond to a stimulus, they can reproduce, they have locomotion, meaning they can move from one place to another. They maintain homeostasis and they can obtain food. We discussed the difference between a unicellular and a multicellular organism. How all things can grow, even single-celled organisms, they grow when the cell grows. Multicellular organisms grow when they have multiple cells, when their cells multiply. We discussed a stimulus and a response. Reproduction, locomotion, and how organisms maintain homeostasis so that their internal systems maintain the same balance no matter what's going on outside and around them to keep them alive and safe. And then we discuss finally what all living things need. I asked you to take a quiz and review and quiz yourself. And now we're going to start part 2. So for this part, in your book, I'm going to be just using 2 pages from section 2. And it's going to be page 226, 227. Okay, so how are living things classified? The first thing I want you to do is sort and classify. So you're going to click on the slideshow, you're going to click on this picture here, and it's going to bring you to this page, and there are 2 columns. And I just want you to take the words, look at the words, and take them and just classify them or sort them into 2 groups, however you want. It doesn't matter, however you want, whatever you think is correct. And then when you're done with that, once you've done all the words, I'm going to come over here, click on this wheel, press the reset button, and then I want you to add 4 columns. Now 4 columns means you have to think a little bit more, and I want you to start sorting. I'm just randomly sorting, I'm not doing it right now. I want you to start sorting into the 4 groups. How can I take all these words and classify them and group them into 4 different groups? Okay? And when you're done with that, click back on the slideshow. All right, so we're going to begin with Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus, he was a Swedish naturalist, and he developed a way to classify organisms. And what he did, his system is based on looking for similarities in the organism structure. So he would say, okay, all of these winged animals, they're going to be part of this group. And all of the non-winged animals, they're going to be part of this group, right? And all plants that have similar flower structures, they're going to be in their groups together. The flowers have 1 hump on the petal, they'll be over here. If they have 3 humps on the petal, they'll be over here. Something like that. Carolus Linnaeus' naming system was called binomial nomenclature. That is something that you need to know, is very important. Binomial nomenclature. So bi means 2 and nomial means names. So this means 2 names, and nomenclature is just a system. It just means a system of classifying something. So it's a classification system with 2 names. Binomial nomenclature. So we are naming organisms, but we're giving them all 2 names. And the names are in a certain language. They're in Latin. And the reason why they're in Latin is so that you can go anywhere in the world and everything will have the same name. If I try to travel somewhere, and for instance, I say dog, and I'm in Spain, and they don't speak English, they're not going to know what a dog is. They have a different common name for a dog. But if you're speaking with a scientist, they'll use binomial nomenclature or a scientific name, and it will have two names and they will be the same. So I'm going to show you in a moment. In binomial nomenclature, the first word is the genus and the second word is a feature. Now we'll come back to a genus in the second lesson when we discussed how we're going to break down the classification system. But for now, just know that the first word means the genus and the second word stands for a feature. So what's in a name? Well, look at this organism over here. I see these spots that kind of look like tiger stripes a little bit. And this is a salamander. So the scientific name or binomial nomenclature name is Abastoma tigrinum. Abastoma tigrinum. Abastoma is the salamander's genus. So it's basically a name for salamander. Tigrinum is the feature. So it's got these tiger-like stripes. So it kind of looks like a tiger, right? Also notice in binomial nomenclature, only the first name is capitalized, not the second. The genus is capitalized, not the feature. And the common name for this salamander is a tiger salamander. The common name in English is a tiger salamander. The scientific name is Abastoma tigrinum. Now you're not going to need to have to come up with these names, the scientific name. I'll give them to you, but you need to know that the first one is the genus, the second one is the feature, and the first one is always capitalized. How do we use scientific names, or why do we use scientific names? We use them to avoid mistakes, like I was saying before about the dog. If I was talking about a dolphin to someone in, let's say, I don't know, China, their name for a dolphin might not be the same name that we have for dolphin. So we use the scientific name so we're both talking about the same thing and there's no mistakes. The second reason is that organisms with similar evolutionary histories are classified together in a genus. And we're going to talk about that later on. That's called their phylogeny. We're going to talk about that. The scientific name gives descriptive information. Remember that tigrinum part? The second part of the binomial nomenclature? So it gives descriptive information. And they allow efficient and easy organization. So this is all in your book on page 227. All right, so modern classification. So we've come a long way since Carolus Linnaeus. He definitely was the start for us for organizing and classifying names, but we've just made some, little modifications here and there to update the system because we're always finding new things, always naming new organisms. So this is kind of like a living document. So if you look here, we have this group on top. The biggest group is the domain. Now your book says it's kingdom, but I'm telling you it's the domain. And the smallest group is the species. So you start out with every living thing up here, and then let's say I just want to talk about animals. So I take out the insects, and I take out the plants, and I take out the fungi, and I just talk about animals, right? Then I just want to talk about animals with backbone. So I take out maybe jellyfish and other things that don't have a backbone. And then I just want animals that are mammals. And then I just want animals that are carnivores, that eat meat. You see what I'm doing here? I'm slowly, gradually making it smaller and smaller and smaller until I just have the species, which are all the same type of organism, very similar. Species are able to reproduce with one another. If you're in the same species, you can reproduce. Like a cat and a dog wouldn't be able to have babies, right? They don't reproduce. But cats can reproduce. they're in the same species. So we narrowed it down. Okay? The domain, as your book doesn't tell you this, in the domain there's 3 categories. There's eukaryote and there's prokaryotic. And the prokaryotic is broken into 2 sections. So we'll discuss that again later on, but I just wanted you to know, because your book doesn't have this, that the domain is basically eukaryotic versus prokaryotic cells. The prokaryotic cells don't have all these membrane-bound structures in here, right? I don't even see a nucleus in here. Okay, and to end for today, what I want you to do is take a look at the brain pop today. So you can either click here to watch it here, or you can click here to watch it on brain pop. And it is about classification. So watch the brain pop, and then I have some homework questions for you that are based on this video, the slideshow, and the brain pop. Okay? Have a great day.